Let me start with Tim Evans and then Kenji. Tim.
Yeah, thank you very much to the panelists. I'd love to get your opinions on what evidence you'd have, either as deans of schools of health professions or as a policymaker in charge of investing in health professional education, with respect to what constitutes good performance. When I listen to the panelists, I get the sense that from year to year you could say we're being transformative and we're being socially accountable. And you wouldn't have any consistent evidence which might meet the criteria for systematic review. So what are those metrics that you use either in running an institution that tell you that you're really moving in the right direction, either towards transformative education or social accountability? And what are the system-wide metrics that can be measured and compared across institutions and even across countries, which give us a sense that we can really translate this very encouraging rhetoric? Thank you.
You first?
Start first, Roger.
Okay, I'll have a go at Tim's question. In our context with our social accountability mandate at Northern Ontario School of Medicine, I would say that the individual metric is that our graduates have the skills and the commitment, the desire to provide healthcare where it's most needed in those communities in Northern Ontario. And so it's metrics like the Chapleau story that I mentioned. In terms of comparative metrics, 62% of our graduates have chosen family medicine, mostly rural family medicine, as their career pathway, which is double the national average in Canada. So that's a comparison with other schools.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. I'll also take Tim Evans' question. For us, it's very, very simple. You know, we are located in the poorest part of South Africa, and our school was started with this transformative mandate 29 years ago. To date, we have graduated more than 1,400 doctors. Of those, 75% are still working within that deprived area. And if you look at the people who are working in the Eastern Cape, where Walter Sisulu is located, has got about 2,300 doctors. And of those doctors, 1,000, at least around 1,000 are graduates of Walter Sisulu University. So we know that we are training and we are retaining. In the South African context, the last time I had a look at our statistics, only 45 of our doctors had immigrated out of South Africa. And I don't want to give you a comparison with other South African universities, but I can tell you that's a very, very small number. So I think we are fulfilling our mandate of training locally and retaining them where they are needed.
Thanks a lot. Noel.
Let's put a situation. You are a clinician or you are a clinical health worker or a public health worker. You need to make a decision on some clinical issue, and then you are beset with a number of primary sources of information, each of them equally valid. How are you going to resolve your dilemma? So I repeat again, the best buy is a meta-analysis approach. Thank you.
Rebecca.
Yes, thank you. I'd just like to say that an institution that actually tracks its graduates and follows where they practice is quite rare. So the fact that Jehu can even give that information is quite impressive. So again, I would like to echo, following where do your graduates practice afterwards? Are they in areas of needed? Are they practicing specializations that are needed? What's the quality of care, and then what are the health outcomes? And I would also like to mention that we're working with the Medical Education Partnership Initiative to actually develop a graduate tracking system that can measure those metrics. Thank you.
Erika.
Just three quick things. In terms of the guidelines, the quantity, quality, and relevance, the recommendations were based on systematic reviews for all of the recommendations in the guidelines. So they weren't based just on expert opinion. Secondly, in terms of social accountability, We are working to develop a framework that can measure more consistently social accountability coming out of the global consensus on social accountability for medical schools. That's now been broadened to health professional institutions, and that is an ongoing piece of work. And thirdly, WHO has recently convened a technical working group to look at health workforce education assessment tools. And these would measure not only a snapshot of where countries are, but what they would be doing what we can measure in the future to see what has been transformed and how it has been transformed. So we are working on the basis of evidence. We are not just talking about it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Erika. And Julio, can you do something about Kenji's comments?
Well, I wanted to address the question of the metrics, because I do think it speaks to the heart and of the problem. And interestingly, as we get closer to some of the final outcomes, we are developing better and better metrics. Where I think we have a huge absence of good evidence is in a lot of what goes on inside the educational institutions. And I think there's a dearth of good research, educational research, that may allow us to understand whether some forms of transformative learning, some of these reforms that we're introducing actually work or not. And I do think this is an emerging agenda. Part of what the new technologies will offer are new platforms for collecting data on how people learn. I mean, we're gaining more and more insights, but I do believe we need to develop, as I was saying in the morning, evidence-based education as well, and we really do not have a lot of evidence on whether, what is the relative effectiveness of different modes of delivering education. So not so much on the health side, but on the educational front, I think both the question of measuring what we do and then seeing how that works its way down this chain is something that I think is a huge agenda for future investigation.
Thank you very much. And I'd like with you to thank the panel, and sorry for having extended the time a little bit. Thanks.